You reply to people. But the conversation fades. You show up. But no one really sees you. And after a while, it starts to feel like you're being ignored. But what if that's not actually what's happening? What if people aren't ignoring you? They just don't know how to read you. Visual, person scrolling phone in dim light. 2. Problem deep dive. It doesn't look obvious from the outside. You're polite. You respond. You don't create problems. But something feels off. People don't open up to you deeply. Conversations stay surface level. You rarely feel chosen. And slowly, your mind starts filling in the gap. They're not that interested. I don't matter that much. Maybe I'm just forgettable. Visual, empty room with sunlight slowly shifting. So you adjust. You become more neutral. More careful. Less expressive. You don't want to say the wrong thing. So you say less of the real thing. And without noticing, you become harder to read. Here's the strange part. The more you try to avoid being misunderstood, the more invisible you start to feel. Because connection doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being interpretable. But your brain doesn't see it that way yet. And that's where the pattern begins. 3. Reframe. You're not ignored. You're not uninteresting. And you're definitely not too quiet in the way you think. What you're doing is protecting yourself from judgment, from rejection, from being seen incorrectly. Your brain is trying to reduce social risk. In psychology, this is called self-protective inhibition. It's when your mind filters your expressions before they reach the outside world. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you've learned that saying the wrong thing has consequences. So you adapt. You become more controlled, more neutral, more unreadable. And at first, it feels safe. But over time, that safety starts to cost you something. Something subtle. Something most people don't realize until much later. 4. Psychological mechanism. Your brain is constantly running a quiet prediction system. It's trying to answer one question. How will this person respond to me? This involves areas like the prefrontal cortex, decision-making, and the amygdala, threat detection. When there's uncertainty, the brain defaults to caution. Visual. Abstract brain animation with signals moving. Here's the problem. Other people's brains are doing the same thing. They're also trying to predict you. But when your expressions are minimal, your reactions are muted, and your emotions are hidden, there's not enough data to read. So their brain labels you as unpredictable. And in social psychology, unpredictability often gets interpreted as distance. Not danger. Not dislike. Just distance. Visual. Two people sitting quietly with space between them. Think of it like a blurry image. If someone looks at a clear photo, they instantly recognize what's there. But if the image is blurred, their brain has to work harder. And most of the time, it just stops trying. Not because it doesn't care, but because it doesn't have enough clarity to continue. That's what happens in conversations. When your signals are too subtle, people don't lean in. They drift. And from your side, it feels like rejection. But from their side, it feels like uncertainty. And uncertainty rarely creates connection. 5. Practical framework. So the goal isn't to become louder. It's to become more readable. Not dramatic. Not exaggerated. Just clear. Here's how that starts to happen. 1. Externalize one internal reaction. What to do when you feel something small, interest, confusion, amusement, say a simple version of it out loud. Why it works. This reduces emotional ambiguity, giving the other person clear signals to respond to. Your brain learns that expression doesn't automatically lead to negative outcomes. Example. Instead of just nodding, you say, "That's actually interesting, I didn't think about it like that." Visual, notebook with one sentence written. It's small, but it gives your presence shape. 2. Replace neutral responses with direction. What to do? Avoid default responses like, yeah, okay, or silence. Add a direction, agree, disagree, or expand. Why it works. The brain uses pattern recognition to build connection. Directional responses create patterns people can follow and engage with. Example. Instead of, yeah, say, "Yeah, but I think the hardest part is sticking to it." Now there's something to respond to. 3. Show micro-reactions in real time. What to do? Let your face and tone reflect what you feel, slightly. Why it works. Humans rely heavily on mirror neurons. When people see your reactions, their brain mirrors them, creating emotional alignment. Example. A small smile. A slight pause. A raised eyebrow. Visual, close-up of subtle facial expression. These are signals. Without them, interaction feels flat. 4. Stop pre-editing everything. What to do? Before speaking, reduce the mental filtering by 20 to 30%. Why it works. Over-filtering activates